General Assembly, who was a big disappointment in the Wood Memorial a little over a week ago, dazzled the clockers at Churchill Downs this morning with one of the fastest times in the track's history. Son of Secretariat went 5/8 of a mile in a little over 57 seconds. That's the fastest time at the track since 1973. The main question is whether General Assembly can go the Derby distance, which is 1.25 miles. Former Iowa football coach Bob Cummings will continue to make his home in Iowa, but not as a football coach. Cummings has been hired by Bankers Life of Des Moines as a life underwriter. Cummings has been undergoing training over the past month and will officially join the firm later this month. He'll be working throughout the state. Julius Burrows, who teamed up with Roberto Di Vincenzo to win the Legends of Golf tournament on Sunday, will be back at the Amana VIP this summer. Burrows was one of the founders of the VIP back in 1967. A judge in Iowa has found a University of Iowa football player innocent of riot charges in connection with a fight with Iowa City Police at a night spot a year ago. Judge says there was not enough evidence for the charges against Steve Vasquez. Former Iowa State basketball coach Ken Trickey has been officially named the new basketball coach at Oklahoma City University. Trickey has been given a 4-year contract. The salary was not disclosed. Trickey coached at Iowa State in 75 and 76. That's sports. Here's John.
The Centennial Bridge was swept today, but the object of the sweeping wasn't to clean it up. Jim Mahlmberg explains.
There is at least one way to cross the Centennial Bridge without having to pay a toll. But to do it, you'll need a machine that looks like a lawnmower and costs about $10,000. This is that machine. It's called the DeLamtech, and the Centennial Bridge Commission had it out this afternoon sweeping the bridge in an effort to detect any weaknesses in the span. The DeLamtech's operator, Les Fossen, is a member of the bridge's consulting engineer firm, and he explained how the machine, which uses sonar, works.
Okay, the battery powers this thing to sound the deck at a rate of 33 beats per second. Then the beats, the sounding in the deck from sounding the concrete is received by these two receiver wheels, and whatever the results it is plotted in this tape, which turns at the same rate the wheels do, that's what this thing here is. We've led a number of contracts around the country, and the success ratio is greater than 90%. In other words, if the machine says there's a problem there, we've gone in with jackhammers and there's been a problem there.
Whenever the DeLamtech detects a bad spot, the area is marked with red paint. Then, after Fossen turns in his report to the Bridge Commission, its members look the report over to determine priorities and decide what should be done. We asked Fossen if there have been any indications yet that the bridge might need some major repair.
No, there are some potholes that it will develop eventually from the delaminations, and that's part of our program now, is to determine exactly what is the condition of the deck. And also in future years, maybe 2 or 4 years, we'll run the same test again to determine the rate of deterioration of the deck.
Fossen estimates the job will be done sometime around noon tomorrow, depending on traffic and weather conditions. By that time, he'll have walked around 20 miles, which isn't bad when you consider the job used to be done by someone tapping a hammer. On the Centennial Bridge, this is Jim Mahlmberg reporting for Channel 6 Person-to-Person News.
And that about brings us to the close of a wet and rainy day. For John Poppovich and Bob Sidney, John Bauman, have a pleasant dry night someplace.
Hello, I'm Charles King, and this is Comment. Another wedge is being driven between the Illinois and Iowa Quad Cities. As is the case with most such confrontations, it's the kind of situation which is bound to foster hard feelings and further impede cooperation in the future. The adversaries are familiar, the mass transportation agencies of Davenport and Rock Island County. Fresh from a 2-year battle over location and operation of a joint bus garage, the question this time is over how to split federal funds between the two systems. At present, the allocations are doled out on a per capita basis, and the Rock Island County system, by virtue of a larger population, receives the lion's share. Davenport interests are objecting to that. They're saying the money should be divided on the basis of need. And by their reckoning, Davenport has a greater need at the moment and should get a larger share. Now, there are probably, as always, valid arguments on both sides. But what is most disturbing, again, is the lack of any apparent spirit of cooperation or compromise on either side. Each appears to be concerned only with its own narrow interests and to ignore those of the Quad Cities in general. As we pointed out before, that kind of attitude is certainly not limited to mass transit officials. It's manifest in a variety of intercity and inter-county dealings. And we think it's time that attitude is changed. If efforts to present the Quad Cities as a single metropolitan area are ever to be successful, governmental leaders on both sides of the river must take some of the initiative. And right now would seem to be a good time to start. Charles King and comment.